Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. My name is Olivia Molly Rogers and I'm excited to get comfortable in the uncomfortable with you and remind you that nobody is perfect and everybody has something going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to Tell Me More. Today I have a guest who is a very important person in my life. It is my uncle Oren Klemich. Now, Oren became a spokesperson for Donate Life and has been for more than 10 years now after becoming a donor family. Oren, this could be an emotional one because he lost his son, my beautiful cousin, and became a donor family after losing Jack, which is what made him so passionate about organ donation, and he's done amazing things in this space since then. So today we are going to talk about what an amazing person Jack was and share his story and talk about the importance of organ donation. So thanks so much for joining me, Oren.
Pleasure, Liv. Lovely being here.
It's been nice having you here over from Adelaide and to have you in the hot seat.
Thank you. I'm a bit nervy, but I'll be right. After I've talked for a few minutes, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But no, it's lovely, and congratulations on what you're doing too. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
I would love to start by talking about our Jack. Now, obviously, I was very lucky to know him very well. He was just the best, and I would love for the listeners to get some insight into just how great he was. So can you tell me a bit about him?
Thank you. Gill, my lovely wife who's in the room, and I adored Jack. He was our firstborn. We're lucky to have two gorgeous girls, and but he was our first, and we just loved him. He was a challenge as a youngster, particularly for Gill, because I don't know, she did such a good job with him, and I was out a lot with work commitments, but we just adored him, and life without him, it's tough. He died a long time ago. He died, back in 2009, but it's still not a day goes by, hardly an hour goes by, and that you just don't think of him, and you realise how important your children are in your life. When you're just continuously, thinking about them, and as we do. But I just loved him. We all loved him. His cousins loved him. His sisters loved him. He wasn't perfect. He teased his sisters and probably teased you a bit too, Liv.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's the nature of a teenage boy and under. But he was just a lovely lad, and I don't know, I just love going to the footy with him and love going to the cricket with him and teach him how to kick with his wrong foot and handball with his wrong hand, and all the things that dads of sport-loving children do. And so he was Gill looked after our children beautifully, and we just all loved each other. And as I said, he wasn't perfect. I don't want to put him on a pedestal that makes him into a saint, but he was a gorgeous boy, and he really was. He was just a lovely nature, and we miss him terribly.
He was very funny, annoyingly funny, the kind of funny where it was often sort of at my expense, but I couldn't not laugh. Like, he'd say something to me that was mean, but I'm like, shit, he's funny. I'm like trying to hold a smile in. And he and Eleanor, my sister, together would always be like, don't laugh, Olivia. Because they could see that it was coming, but it would be laughing at myself. But he had such an infectious sense of humour, and that laugh where he would just almost cackle, throw his head back, and you couldn't not laugh when you're around him.
Yeah, he was a popular young man and had loads of good friends, and his death affected a lot, not just family but teammates and school friends and all the mates he'd made along the way. So it was a tough old time because not many kids of that age lose a good friend. So not many parents lose a child, all those things. So it was a pretty tough old time.
It was a very tough time. And same as you, I miss him every day.
Thank you.
And I know it won't be easy to do, but could you take me back to the day that we lost him?
Yeah, sure. It was a tough period. Gill and I were away, and which made it even a bit harder. But we had our 25th wedding anniversary, and we rarely went away without the kids. Usually our holidays were family, but we decided to. We were both in our late 40s and thought, we've never been to America, so let's head off to New York for our 25th wedding anniversary, which we did. And on the way back, we thought we'd have a little stopover in Hawaii just to break up that long flight. And I remember ringing. I was dying to see how Jack had done in his footy the day before. He had a game against one of the leading schools in Adelaide, and who are really good at footy, who produce all these AFL stars. And anyway, Sophie I was talking to, our second daughter, we've got Georgie, Sophie, and yakking away to Sophie, and I said, hey, can you go get Jack, sweetheart? I want to find out how he went yesterday. And she said, oh, he's still in bed. This is Sunday morning, and he's still in bed. He's got a headache. And I said, okay, when he gets up, can you tell him to give me a call? I'm dying to see how he went. And anyway, then on we went with our, I think it became night there, and next morning, very early, it was about 7 o'clock in the morning in Hawaii, and it was about 4 a.m. in Adelaide from memory, something like that. And I remember Gill saying, why would they be ringing knowing what time it was in Adelaide? And it was Gill's mum who said, look, we're really worried with Jack. His headache just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and a locum looked at him and didn't know what was wrong. Meningococcal's very hard to pick up. They said, he's in hospital, and he'd gone to bed. The doctor said, look, take some Panadol and, see your doctor tomorrow. Not sure what's coming. You may be getting the flu, maybe Ross River, maybe glandular fever, not sure, mate, but take some Panadol and, go see a proper doctor in the morning. And and halfway through the night, there was this smash of glasses. Teenagers have half the kitchen crockery on their bedside table, and he was clearly going through this total horror, the poor guy. And he smashed all these, and his grandmother woke up, saw he was struggling terribly. Ambulance, hospital. Then we got the phone call, and they said, look, we're very, very worried about him. Please get home quickly. And we were lucky there was a flight leaving in a couple of hours, so we jumped onto that, which was an earlier flight than what we were planning. But back to Sydney, and I remember speaking to the lady looking after him at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and from Hawaii Airport, and I said, look, what's going on, And she just said, we're terribly worried about him. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he's not responding to our tests. And I said, what tests? And he said, the gag reflex, the torch in the eye, it's meant to make your pupil get smaller, whatever that word is. And thank you. And another thing they do, and he's not responding. And I said, well, what are you saying? He said, we're very worried about him. And I said, look, we're about to get on a 12-hour flight, and you're going to tell me we're going to get off, and I'll ring you in Sydney, and he would have died. And she said, don't miss the plane. That's all. And it was just really, really tough. And I sort of knew at that point that we'd probably lost him, but you still think maybe. Plane finishes, gets into Sydney, ring, Royal Adelaide, sorry, no change. We're terribly worried about him. And we were rushed through customs and didn't worry about our luggage. And Qantas were great. And on it went. And then I remember ringing Craig, and he was as flat as a tack, my brother Craig, and Jack's uncle, and your uncle. And he said, I'll meet you at the airport, which he did. And I remember seeing his face as we saw him for the first time. I could just tell, we'd lost him, and rushed to the hospital, and all you guys are there, and like you are now, most people were crying or had been crying, and the doctors sort of couldn't say anything till we arrived, but everyone knew, apart from poor Georgie and Sophie, and I felt so sorry for them. And I just remember I was so pleased to see Georgie and Sophie, and we just gave them a hug, and we gave Jack a hug, and he's lying there on life support, which just artificially keeps your heart pumping and your lungs going and all of that. But and I remember darling Soph just said, because Mum and Dad are home and everything's going to be all right now, Mum and Dad are home. She didn't say that, but that was her attitude. And they'd had such a horrible day, being pulled out of school, taken to hospital to see their brother, on life support. And Soph, the darling girl, just said, oh, so are we just going to wait for Jack to wake up now and all go home? And, yeah, it was hard. And then the doctors pull you in and say, look, I'm sorry, but they did it nicer than this. They were superb at the RH. The doctor there we knew very well, who was lovely. And he said, look, I'm really sorry, but, Jack has died. And I remember, again, Soph and George just sort of gasped. And then the issue of organ donation comes up.
Yeah.
And that was good. We're really lucky. Tell me if I'm talking too much, Liv.
No, you're not at all.
Okay,
I think
cool.
I would like to say, I think it was very understandable that Soph felt that way, because I think we all did, being, I got called in to go to the hospital at 7 a.m. that day.
Yeah.
Jack was doing year 12. I was doing year 12. He was doing it again because he loved school footy and cricket so much that he just wanted to hang around.
That's true.
And I thought, I'll go in and see Jack, and, I'm thinking he's going to be sitting up in bed. I'll go and see him in my school uniform. I'll go separate to Mum because I'll say hi, say, get better, you loser, and go to school. And then got to the hospital, and Craig was there and, led us into ICU, and I'm thinking, this is not how I thought things were going to be. And then obviously stayed there all day, and he just looked so good. He just looked absolutely fine, and he's hooked up to this machine. So it just looked like he was having this sleep, and, his hands, we kept holding his hands, and he just looked like he was, just taking a nap.
Yeah. It was very traumatic, and, not being there, particularly for Soph and George and for Jack, you just wonder what he was going through in his, final moments, which always gets to me a bit.
Yeah.
But poor Sophie and Georgie, they went through a lot. And
us into ICU, and I'm thinking, this is not how I thought things were going to be. And then obviously stayed there all day, and he just looked so good. He just looked absolutely fine, and he's hooked up to this machine. So it just looked like he was having this sleep, and, his hands, we kept holding his hands, and he just looked like he was, just taking a nap. Yeah.
It was very traumatic. And, not being there, particularly for Soph and George and for Jack, you just wonder what he was going through in his, final moments, which always gets to me a bit.
Yeah.
But poor Sophie and Georgie, they went through a lot.
Just jumping in here to let you know that this episode is dedicated to Donate Life in honour of Donate Life Week, which kicks off on the 28th of July. We know that 4 in 5 Australians say that they support organ donation, but only 1 in 3 are actually registered on the Australian Organ Donor Register. There are currently around 1,800 Australians on the organ waitlist and 14,000 more on dialysis for kidney failure who need Australia's help. One organ donor can save the lives of up to 7 people and change the lives of many more through eye and tissue donation. It only takes 1 minute to register as an organ and tissue donor at donatelife.gov.au or with 3 taps on your Express Plus Medicare app. Don't forget to tell your family you want to be a donor. Someone's life depends on it. We want all Australians to register as organ and tissue donors and be the reason someone else gets a second chance at life. So Jack was registered as an organ donor.
He was. So Jack was a healthy young kid and 18-year-old, perfectly good organs. And they say, look, Jack had registered and the way he registered was through driver's licence. He just turned 18, just got his full licence offer, if that's the word, from the Department of Transport, who wrote saying, look, you're off your P's, you're on your main, and fill out this form and send the cheque and you've got a licence. And the last question on the SA driver's licence thing is, would you like to register as an organ donor? And Gill and Jack, Gill was cooking dinner, Jack was at the kitchen bench filling this out, and he said to his mum, what's organ donation? And she said, oh, look, if something horrible happens to you and you're taken to hospital and you die, the doctors can give your organs to other people that need them and would have died. He went, oh, okay, tick. Just tick the box, that's it. So the question comes in the Royal Adelaide, a few months after he did that, will you consent? Because the family has the final say, which is a system that is respectful. And they said, look, Jack was registered. Do you consent to the donation? And we both said yes. We were both registered as well. And Jack, a little later was taken off, and 5 of his organs went to 4 recipients, and he saved 4 lives. And at the time, you think you're grieving so heavily, you don't think about it or don't really care about it. But about probably 2 weeks after he died, we get this lovely letter from Donate Life in SA just saying, look, his left kidney went there, his right kidney went there, his pancreas went there, his liver went there, etc. They don't tell you who got them. They just give a very vague and a description of where they go. And the letter just finished saying they're all incredibly grateful and they're all doing well. And you think, good. I'm glad we didn't say no. That's good. A little boy, a gorgeous little lad, he's still out there keeping some other Aussies alive. And from that moment on, Gill and I have both been pretty strong advocates for organ donation and the meningococcal vaccine. But organ donation is the one that takes my time and I'm very passionate about, yeah.
So I would love for you to explain a little bit more about the actual process. So I remember Jack being hooked up to the machines, and when we found out that he had died, it was very strange because he still looked exactly the same, and it was hard to sort of come to terms with it while he's lying there. It's like you just want him to just wake up. But I know that they had to keep him like that for the organ donation.
Yeah, correct. Thanks for asking that. because a lot of people are confused about organ donation. To donate your organs, you've got to die in hospital on life support, and you've got to be brain dead. That's how most are given. I won't go into massive detail, but the meningococcal germ that Jack somehow picked up caused enormous swelling to its brain. The brain's got nowhere to go. It's, got a skull around it, and the brain just swells and swells and swells and swells, hence the foul headache the darling boy had, and cuts off blood supply, kills the brain, and nothing can be done. So that's sort of how, believe it or not, only about 1,400 people like that a year in Australia die in a way that they can donate. It's not many in a population of 26 million, but plenty of people die in hospital, but normally it's from a cancer or whatever, heart attacks. But to have someone perfectly healthy like that die from death of the brain is quite rare. And it's so important because there's so few. It's very, very important that we get families to say yes. And when they're registered, as Jack was, 9 out of 10 families say yes.
Because ultimately, when it's happening, you have to make the final decision.
Correct.
Even if they are registered.
Correct. And some people say, oh, that's ridiculous, if they're registered. Well, sorry, but at the end of the day, the family, the way the system works in Australia, and it, as I said, it's respectful. Rather than just wheeling them out of the room and, taking all, it's discussed with the family. And it's done very well. It's done extremely well. And they're very aware of the grief you're suffering. And so we had the chat. We said yes. Now, it's so important for people to be registered because, as I said, 9 out of 10 families say yes when their loved one, their Jack equivalent, is registered. When they're not registered, they don't know what to do, and only 4 out of 10 families say yes. So all these healthy organs are buried or cremated, and people on waiting lists die. And it's just so important to register. And I guess we'll get to that in a minute on how to do that, but it's incredibly simple. Daniel, we're gonna get. Actually, we'll do it later. But sorry, Daniel's in the room. We're going to get him to. He reckons he's registered, but we're going to check. So Daniel's smiling, but it's so important to register and then tell your family.
Yeah.
So you, for example, Liv, you're registered, of course, but you register and you just tell your mum, and just say, Mum, if anything ever happened to me, I want you to donate. I want you to consent. Yeah. And because the family in this foul moment of grief, as we had 15 odd years ago, they just don't know what to do. So
how soon after the doctors said that he had died was it that they came in and said,
pretty prompt.
Yeah.
Pretty prompt.
Like within that hour kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. They just said, look, some people from Donate Life will come in and just have a chat to you about it. And they were lovely. And our decision, because it was registered, it was a relatively simple decision and to do it. And now knowing that, 3 people are still alive 15 years on, it just gives his death a little bit more purpose. And it's nice to know that, our gorgeous boy is keeping a few alive still. It's great. And
so a few years ago, it's all anonymous, but through the organisation, you were able to write letters to the recipients.
Correct.
Now, we can't read the whole thing, but I would love for you to share a bit of that letter with us if you can.
Yeah, Gill and I wrote to Jack's recipients a few years ago, and we sadly, one of them has passed away, not through one of his kidney recipients passed away, not from kidney failure, but something else. So three are still alive today, which is just great. And we sent the letter off and said, look, we're glad you're reading this. It means you're still alive. And, our gorgeous boy, died from a disease he had no control over. And he was healthy. He was 18. He was doing year 12 and all of that. And we said, you don't have to write back, but if you do, we'd be thrilled to hear from you. And his liver recipient wrote back, and he said, you'll... Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
He said, your son's decision to donate his organs saved my life. I only had weeks to live. I won't read it all, but it's a lovely letter. It's just handwritten and it's gorgeous. And he just said, I'm living a healthy life now thanks to your son's organ donation. Your son sounded like he was a wonderful young man, and part of him lives on in me, which is great, which it does. And it's just so nice that, that liver could have been buried and it wasn't. It saved this bloke's life, and he's doing really well. So, and that's what this thing's all about. And but as I touched on, there are so few opportunities. There's only about 1,400 a year that die like Jack died. Yeah. They're healthy, they're in hospital, they're brain dead. Brain death is irretrievable. As soon as they turn the machine off, you die, promptly afterwards. And without your brain, you can't function. Your brain tells you how to breathe and everything. So legally, Jack was dead, and but whilst he's still on the respirator, they find future recipients around the country, and they're amazing how they do it. The Donate Life system around Australia and the hospitals are incredible.
Yeah.
But we need to get them organs.
I think that there are quite a few misconceptions when it comes to organ donation. A lot of people we know just haven't thought about it, and that might be the reason that they haven't registered. But then I think there are some people that have thought about it and think, oh, well, I don't want them, doing weird things with my organs, like not thinking necessarily that it's going straight to a recipient, a sick person who really needs it, but, that maybe it's going off to science or whatever that might be. You can make specific decisions around what's donated. Is that correct?
Usually, if you register as an organ donor, your organs will save lives of other people. The doctors will assess, are your organs working right? And it doesn't matter how old you are. The doctors here can put a perfectly healthy 70-year-old kidney into a person of similar age who's been on dialysis for 15 years and, can't go on holidays, is hooked up to a machine, 6 days a week. And so it's really important, and you can save the lives. Jack saved the lives of 4 through his donation of 5 organs, but you can save up to 7 people. You've got 2 kidneys, humans only need 1. So, pancreas, liver, et cetera, lungs, heart, eyes. There's all these things. We did specify with Jack. He had gorgeous blue eyes, didn't he? And I asked them not to do anything with the eyes, which they didn't. And the family has the ultimate control, but when they're registered, it's easy to say yes. Now, there's 13 million Australians that are eligible to register that haven't. So we just need to get more people registered. We really do. And Because again, I'll say it, 9 out of 10 families say yes when their loved one is registered. Only 4 out of 10 say yes when they're not. So if you're registered, the family knows what to do. And it's so simple to do it. I did it last night. Obviously, I'm already registered, but I just checked. So I Googled Daniel.
Daniel's going to do this live for us, so you're going to check if you are registered.
Good on you, Daniel.
And then we can talk about just how easy it is.
So, Daniel, can you Google Donate Life? Yep. Tell me when that's done.
Yeah, we're on. So it's the first thing that comes up on Google. If you just type, if you don't remember, you could type organ donation registration or something. And it's the first thing that comes up.
Whatever you do. And there's a big button saying donate.
Join the register.
That's what I want. So hit that.
Yep.
Up it comes. You need your name, date of birth.
Yep. So we'll punch in all this while you guys chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it should take you. It took me a while to get
Less
my
than a
date
minute,
of birth
right?
in. I don't know how to use those swivel things. And also I had to go down to 1960.
You have to go quite far down.
And I got to about 1820 at one stage and realised I'd gone too far. But have you date of birth, Medicare card?
So I got that was the hardest part. I had to get someone to bring in my Medicare card. So to be honest, the hardest part is finding your Medicare card.
Okay.
And we've punched it in now. So
that's in and register.
Yeah, so we're going to press register.
And
we've got a thank you page.
Oh, so you weren't registered?
Maybe not.
Mate, you thought you were registered.
I think I thought I was. I feel like a decade ago or something I did it with Medicare.
Okay.
But maybe not. But I guess if people think they have or haven't, it took me we just did that live then. It took me one.
Yeah. But I think also a lot of people think that it's an opt-out situation. So I think across the board, a lot of Australians would be happy to donate their organs, and if you were to ask them, they'd say, oh yeah, like I'd donate my organs and I think I'm registered.
Yeah.
But they have to actually go and do it.
Yeah.
I think the assumption is because lots of people are willing that they are just registered.
Yep.
But they need to do it. It's not, I think overseas there are some places where you opt out.
Yep.
But in Australia, you have to.
There are a few opt-out systems. Our system is opt-in. So, Daniel has just opted in. So, if something horrible happened to Daniel, whether it be his partner or his children or his whoever, his mother or father, that are ultimately making the decision on what they now know. They now know that he's registered. And the great thing there was you thought you were. So many Australians think they're registered. So please, if you think you are, just check it. I checked it. I know I'm registered, but I did it last night and it came up and said, thank you, but you're already registered. So, but Daniel, yours just said thank you. So it's so simple. That took you less than a minute.
Yep, and it says it's going to send a donor card in the next 3 weeks. It obviously takes all your info from your Medicare card, and you can check it all through your MyGov as well, or your Medicare Express Plus app.
Great.
Amazing.
So if anything horrible happened to Daniel, he's now in the 9 out of 10 families know what to do, but you've now got to share that information with your family. Just tell them that you're registered today, and tell them if anything ever happened, please, it's something I want to do.
In South Australia, where we're from, when you are filling out your license, as you said, that was the reason he had the conversation with Gill.
Yep.
Is that he was ticking a box for organ donation for his driver's license. But South Australia is the only state that has that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And our numbers are spectacular. 72 or 3% of South Australians are registered as organ donor, which is just incredible. The national average is, Victoria, for example, is about 28% or something. So we just need to get people registered. And unfortunately, we're the only state that has, when you get your driver's license, round it comes and you go tick, boom. It's sort of a normal thing to do in South Australia, be a registered as organ donor. People talk about it. But for some reason, I don't know, around about 2009 or thereabouts, all the states and territories except SA dropped off the driver's license thing, and I would love to see them bring it back. If there's a health minister listening to this, just bring it back. we're trying very hard to encourage that around Australia. Because I look at the lives saved in SA, because of the registration rates are so high, the consent rates, if more families know what to do, they say yes, like we did with Jack. And so it's just so important to see that happen again. But meanwhile, to kind of donate life and register that way. But Liv, I'm really hoping to see the other states move back to a model that we use in SA, that just gives you that opportunity when you do get your driver's license. And people that don't drive, well, you know, they can register in other ways. But that's what we're hoping to see nationally occur over the next decade.
Awesome.
And bring it back. We'll save a lot of lives.
It would.
If we do.
Definitely. Thank you. There's a story you shared about Jack during his eulogy, and I remember parts of it, but I don't remember it in full. But you were in the car with him driving somewhere not long before he died. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. We're driving up the dentist to get a mouthguard for him for his footy. And I don't remember the eulogy. This is one part I do remember. It's sort of all a blur, that funeral. We'd had a bit of a blue a few nights before. He came home too late. I've got a thing about that, particularly, you know, he had a school day the next day. And he wasn't super late, but I think the rule was 11 o'clock's late enough, and he came in after midnight, and I was a bit cross, and we had words. We got on very, very, very well, but yeah, he needed to come home earlier, and anyway, on the way there, I apologised for having a crack, and he apologised for being late, and all of that, and I said, look, you know, after you finish school, you can do what you like, more or less, but you know, you've got to stick to the rules for this year. And he said, yeah, no, sorry. And no, it was a nice little chat, and I'm glad we had that chat, because we went off to holiday soon after, and you know, I would have been carrying that a bit. It wasn't a horrible argument, but you know, it was just something that happens a bit, and it was nice to resolve it.
Yeah. If you could chat to Jack now, is there anything in particular that comes to mind that you would say?
Good question, Liv. Not prepared. I should have got you a list of questions that I would love to just be chatting with him about his sisters, of whom we were very, very proud. His sister Georgie got engaged just recently, and he would be thrilled for that. He obviously never met Georgie's fiance, but they'd get on really well. He's a good bloke. Jack's a good bloke. Georgie's a lovely girl. That'd be lovely, talking about where the wedding's going to be, all those things. And hopefully I'd be discussing about his partner in life. Hopefully he might have been married by now. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. But I'd certainly be talking about the Crows.
Yep.
Not happy with the Crows. Love the Crows, but I want to win more games of footy, and we would be going together, and we got knocked off by Essendon recently, which didn't appeal greatly. But I don't know. Good question, Liv. We'd be talking about all the things that we talked about when he was 18.
Yeah. But
we'd be talking about his job, and he probably would have gone into property, I think. That's, you know, what he was planning to do.
Like his dad?
Like his dad. And he would have been good. I'm sure he would have made a good husband for whoever, assuming he wanted to get married, which I'm sure he would have. And he would have made a good dad, and he was a good cousin for you, and a good brother for his sisters and a lovely son for us and a good mate to many. So we miss him terribly.
We do. This is another one that you can take your time answering, but if you were to give some advice to someone grieving the loss of their child, because it is a very specific kind of grief and not one that anyone should have to experience, what would your advice be? Because you and Gill have been amazing through it all.
Thank you. It's been tough. There's Gill out there. I can just see you, Gill. I don't know. It's so hard. You can't believe the feeling. This important little human being you've had in your life forever and a day, particularly for Gill, who, had him more than me in terms of looking after him during the day and everything. And so it was the sense of loss is just almost impossible to describe. I think the main fear is, are we going to be okay? And I always felt I was going to be okay. I didn't think too much about it. But
do you
worry,
mean we as a family?
As a family, and you just don't, with the grief you're suffering, you don't need further complication with your daughter's suffering, your wife suffering, Jack's mother obviously, and we all were suffering, but you sort of got to get up in the morning and get on with your day. And it's really hard. You've got to make sure that the three most important people in your life now, your wife and your two daughters are okay. But on top of that, they're the most important, but you've also got to go to work, and you've got a mortgage to pay, and you've just got to find a way to function. And I think we always talked about Jack a lot. Remember the hardest part, one of the hardest parts, there's so many hard parts, was just sitting at the table. We always sat as a family of five, and then all of a sudden it's just four there. And it was hard. And I sat at the head, and there was 2 and 2 down the sides, and all of a sudden I'm at the head and there's only 1 down one side and 2. So I moved. So we just went 2 and 2. And just weird things like that. You're sitting down at dinner, and the guy who was often teasing his sisters at dinner just wasn't there anymore. And it really takes a while to adjust. But you do, and you talk about him. And when times come, you celebrate his birthday still. And when Christmas comes, you toast absent friends and still talk about Jack. And, I think you include them, you make them part of your life, part of your family, even though they're not there. And you talk about the stupid things you did and the daggy things you did and what an idiot he was. But you talk about, what a nice kid he was, which he was. And so, you don't put him on a pedestal, but you treat him like you would.
Yeah.
As normal. So, yeah, I don't quite know how to describe it, but I think maybe in a roundabout way I have. But I hope no one listening to this has to go through what we've been through, because it's just yuck.
Yeah.
But we've got through it. There's still not daily challenges, that's wrong. There's still little moments where there's tears, and we just miss him.
Yeah.
Just miss him. So, we're okay. We're a good little family, and
We
that
do definitely
includes the extended family. The cousins we're really lucky to have each other, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think he does definitely live on through all of us, and talking about him is so important, and it's always fun because there were so many good memories. Yeah, and I think focusing on that definitely helps.
It does, and we just adored him, and I'm very proud that sort of 15 years on or thereabouts, we're still talking about him. The organ donation stuff we do is very important, but from a selfish point of view, it allows me to talk about Jack. And
I don't think it's selfish. I think, yeah,
it's probably a little bit of grief management in there, as well as trying to encourage the people of Australia to register as an organ donor. But I'm very proud. I think another positive way of looking at it, Liv, is we were so lucky to have him for 18 years, and because he was delightful. He was gorgeous. He was fun. And somebody once asked me, would you rather have never had, if Gill hadn't conceived Jack and we just had two girls, but...
As in to take away the grief that you experienced,
To take away the grief. They put it in a nice way. And the answer is... No, I would rather have him for 18 than not at all.
Yeah.
But the loss is terrible. Really tough. Really tough.
I think you and Gill have done an amazing job of... Oh, I can't look at Gill. She makes me cry. You bitch, Gill.
She is, Liv.
She always gets me going. I just can't look at you.
I've been married to her for 40 years.
You're a lucky man. No, you've done...
She's a lucky woman.
And she is that too. You've done an amazing job of maintaining such a tight family unit and really being there for each other. And I think you've modelled to so many people how you can grieve in a way where you remain a team, because I think it's so common that it, can tear people apart. And I think through what you've done with Donate Life and the meningococcal vaccine and all of that, you've really directed your grief in a very positive way in helping other people. And I think, it's a testament to you guys, and Jack definitely lives on through what you're doing. So you should be very proud of that.
No, thank you. As I said a little while ago, the loss, it is scary. You wonder how it's going to affect the other important people in your life. And we've, come out of it okay. And they're still, as I said, still tears, but we've come out of it okay. And if anything can be achieved from Jack's death, it's this getting the message out about the organ donation, because a lot of people just don't understand it. And a lot of people say, they should just take the organs. Well, you can't. You're talking about a human body and somebody's loved one, and, they've got to consent to the donation of the organs. And I encourage everyone to do what Janelle just did, which took 40-odd seconds, and log on to Donate Life or Google organ donation, whatever, and away you go.
We'll put that in the show notes for sure. I wrap up every episode with a little segment called Oranges and Lemons.
Yep.
Your lemon is something that's a little bit more negative that may have happened today. It may have happened in the last couple of days. And then your orange is your highlight. Jill's trying to get your attention.
The cries.
Oh, yeah.
Why we're here.
Yeah, no, I was believing I was going to say that.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. Oh, thank you, Jill. Okay, for the people listening out there, thank you, Jill. Liv said, would you like to do this podcast? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And bad organ donation. And yep, done. I said, look, why don't I pick a weekend where the Crows are playing in Melbourne, and then I can watch them and we can do this podcast. And yep, okay. Anyway, we decided on this particular date, and I looked at the Adelaide Oval night. Oh, good, they're in Melbourne. They're playing North Melbourne, U Butte. Bang, book the airfares. Liv, we're coming over. We'll see you on this date in April. And anyway, we're all booked in, and we realised that a couple of days before we left for Melbourne, the Crows were actually playing in Hobart.
It didn't say Melbourne, it said an away game, right?
Just, no, it said Blundstone Arena, but I didn't read that far. I just saw that they weren't in Adelaide, so I assumed, North Melbourne. Anyway, I have seen them play down there. It's a gorgeous little oval.
So that was a lemon, because as a big Crows fan, you were keen to watch them at the MCG, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, and they won by we had our second win for the year, so that was spectacular. Anyway, so that's a thumping great lemon. I'm a bit of a lemon at times.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I am. And what's the other one? The orange.
An orange.
I'm colourblind. Orange. The orange is the lovely way we've turned Jack's death into a positive. And all the family talk about him. All the cousins love each other. He saved a whole lot of lives with his organs, and we're telling Australia about the importance of doing what Jack did. And to me, that's a giant orange. Just coming out of this foul thing of losing a gorgeous boy and turning around into something positive. So there's my orange.
That's a great orange. Orange?
Thank you.
That is his nickname as well.
I know. My sister calls me Orange.
My lemon would be, it's been so lovely having you guys here, and Mum came over for the weekend as well so that we could all hang together, which was great. The lemon was that she brought her little dog Ginger, who I love, we all love, but she's very annoying, and she's been weeing all over my cream carpet in my apartment. So that's a lemon.
That's a lemon. You'd think my sister would teach a dog how to not
She's 11 now, so you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah, apparently.
She should have learnt it a while ago. Anyway, that's the lemon, but the orange is similar to you in that I think we all went to Japan over Christmas as a big family, 18 of us, and having the bond that we all have, it's hard to know if it would have been the same if we'd lost Jack, or what that would have looked like hadn't lost Jack. But I think the way that we've managed to stay together, and we all genuinely actually love spending time together, has been so nice. And I feel so lucky to have this beautiful family that we have, and very grateful that you came here to talk to me. So thank you.
Well said. And no, I said it earlier, congratulations to you.
Thanks,
wish you're still living in Adelaide, but Melbourne provides more opportunity for you. And but we see lots of you still. So congrats on what you're doing, and
thank you.
Your chosen fields in life, you're doing it well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming, and Gill as well. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And Daniel, thank you as well. And thank you for registering. Good on you, mate.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.